The Eden Gardens in Kolkata all set to make history, and we're all set to paint the town pink. And that's, I think, very, very appropriate for a ground that has always been steeped in history and always seen so many firsts, and even more appropriate that a couple of gentlemen from that city should be talking about it.
Absolutely. I mean, Eden Gardens for all of us, it's a pilgrimage. You know, people talk about going to somewhere. You know, in Calcutta, if you go, you have to go to the Eden Gardens. And I remember even when I was not in KKR for an official visit, I'd have to go down there, just see the ground, look at what Proteas done with it. You know, it was a ritual.
Your first time ever?
My first time ever was 79 watching Sunil Gavaskar score a century. And India, then Shivnarayan was the name, batting in almost total darkness. Near darkness, but that last wicket they held out and denied India victory. That was my first time.
Yeah, huge partnership. In fact, that was my first time as well. I wonder why we didn't meet at that point in time. It was my first time, sat through that entire 5 days, but then really after that the history began. I think 1987, you'd have to say, all the World Cups until then was monopolized by England, 75, 79, 83, Lords, the home of cricket as it was, and suddenly the world had a new home of cricket.
Absolutely, and what was fantastic was because England had beaten India a few days back, almost the entire crowd was supporting Australia, and they were the underdogs. And the amount of support, and I remember the Australian players very often looking around in disbelief and saying, wow, we could have been playing in Melbourne. Absolutely. And that's the warmth that Eden Gardens can do for you, you know.
I mean, it was one thing to be supporting another team for the reason that England put India out, swept India out in Mumbai, but the very fact that so many cricket lovers could pack a stadium in and make a World Cup final feel like a World Cup final, that's what made that venue so special.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely true of Eden Gardens, you know. That's the best part of Calcutta because, you know, everywhere else people say, you know, this is a ground which is important because of the cricket that's played there. Eden Gardens is equally important because of the spectators that are there to see the game, and that's so important to the game. That gives you a dimension that very few other grounds in the world give you.
And you ask anyone from South Africa that if they had to do it all over again when they were readmitted into Test cricket after their hiatus of being away from the game for apartheid, their readmission at the Eden Gardens was ever so appropriate. They just loved it, and they were just almost adopted.
They were adopted. The way they came in, they started batting, and they didn't get very much. I think they got 174, 75, and then Sachin chased it down. But I remember being there and people saying, Baba, ballta jor kore. Mane, first time that they saw Alan Donald, and remember those days there was not too much television around, so Alan Donald screaming in, I think he got 5 wickets, 5 for 27. It was an amazing spell. They lost the game, but you know, there were tears in the eyes of the guys when they were walking around, and remember they gave a lap of honor in the end walking around. It was an amazing feeling. It was.
But what is it about Bengalis and their love for pace bowling? Because what you mentioned, I remember hearing about Malcolm Marshall because he was a raw pacer in that 1978-79 series. And of course, you ask old-timers, they'll talk about the likes of Griffith coming in bowling there. So it's just something about the love for pace there.
I think they like it. They like the ball coming on, and then they'll tell you, you know, that in the evening, the sort of wind will come over and the fast bowling will try and swing, and they'll swing a lot more. And off-swinger tabhalo hai. The off-swinger goes well, but the in-swinger doesn't. It's all part of the folklore. That's what makes the ground. Folklore, history, myth, you know, that's what the ground is about.
And when you say evening, you of course do mean evening in terms of 4 or 5 p.m., not evening as we are going to be seeing it with a pink ball test match. Imagine what the old-timers would say. What will happen to the ball at 8 p.m.?
I will tell you, in chai dukans all over Calcutta, sitting in the morning, old men will be talking about the fact that in 77, this had been there, John Lever would have swung it so much, and I can imagine the amount of debate, discussion and topics. Everyone must be talking about this match now. Dada, a bhalo test match.
But the fact that Dada could actually bring it to the ground was something that started only in 1993. The first time properly an Indian genuine cricket ground saw a match under lights. Yes, the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium hosted one, but with all due respect to the stadium, it's excellent for Commonwealth Games, etc., but it was not meant to be a cricket ground. Eden Gardens Hero Cup 93, that was it.
Oh, that was an incredible series, and you can remember, I think it was Sachin who was given a ball with 5 to defend, and he defended it in the last over. Then Kumble coming on to bowl.
In the final against the West
6 for 12, and I remember the other very interesting thing about it is those of us who were in broadcasting, that was the only match which two sets of camera crews were telecasting live. So there was Doordarshan crew standing out there with a camera. Right next to him, there was a TWI crew doing it, and it was incredible scenes. All in all, almost an incredible atmosphere, something very new to the game.
And once that had happened, I mean, the firsts just didn't stop. I mean, when you talk about 2001, I'm not sure whether you want to call it a first or just simply history being made. Because in those days, you enforce a follow-on because you are the team on top and you invariably go on to win. But what happened to Australia on that particular day, one down in the series, down and out, enforcing the follow-on, and then the history with Dravid and Lakshman.
Absolutely. And I mean, we go back and I keep saying that when we talk about Test cricket, you won't need to explain the importance of Test cricket to anyone. You don't need to just tell them about 2001 Kolkata. This is Dravid Lakshman, this is Harbhajan, this is what happened. It's just an incredible story. One of the interesting things is, in there, Lakshman talks about the fact that Andrew Lepus was the person who actually made it happen because he was the person who actually made sure that his back was good enough to play.
Yes, and then of course we can even fast forward to 2005 when we've seen the ups and the downs, and it was the one time that maybe came close to reminding you of 1996 or even before. I mean, there were times when Sunil Gavaskar had not been treated too well. There was a little dispute with Kapil Dev and so many things that happened, but that's from another generation. More recently, 1996, people know the folklore of Vinod Kambli crying and what happened in that semi-final. But in 2005, Eden was not happy that Dada was not playing.
Oh, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy. Greg Chappell, I think even now, if he sees Calcutta in his itinerary, he quickly rubs it out and says, let me go to some other city. And he was told exactly what Kolkata thought of him.
And in terms of individual performances, you can think of a Sachin Tendulkar, you can think of Saurav himself, you can think of Virat Kohli. You know, when he picked up that 100, Sachin's only Test 100. I mean, even though you might have a situation where it's not a ground you own like Rohit Sharma more contemporarily does, it's still that even that single innings will be revered because it's happened at what we still consider the home of cricket.
Yeah, absolutely. His 100. Shaurav's Test 100, and Shaurav's Test 100 is perfect because I think that was a match. I think Wasim Jafar got a double century, but more importantly, Dravid got runs, Sachin got runs, Shaurav got a century, and Lakshman got runs. So for for the good Bhadralok to watch cricket, that was their dream. All of them got runs, but their hero got a century, and it is a perfect setting for them.
You have to talk about Virat Kohli when it comes to contemporary champions, and when he finishes his career, he'll have not only a mountain of runs, but a mountain of hundreds. But you always have to go back to your first international 100, and he almost chose the perfect ground, but the perfect time of year to do it. Christmas in Kolkata doesn't get better, does it?
Absolutely. And the most important thing was you're chasing more than 300. That means there's been a lot of runs, there's a lot of excitement, and you go down there and you play that innings, you're chasing. And remember, after that is, Virat's all his life. It's not just that he makes big hundreds, it's that he's one of the masters of the chase. He's made most of his big hundreds chasing. And he and Gautam Gambhir, who's a senior in the Delhi team, they get together and they spin this absolutely fabulous partnership. So that is what not just set up Virat Kohli, but Virat as a chaser. The legend of Virat as a chaser started at the Eden Gardens.
Well, Eden has given a lot to players, but on that day, they got a good Christmas gift.
Absolutely, got a superb Christmas gift. What more can you want?
But we don't want to become too unpopular and only talk about the previous generation and then forget about all the people who feast on the shorter formats of the game. Rohit Sharma just adores the ground, be it in, of course, the IPL, but the double 100?
Oh, absolutely. So the funniest story is that it is told to me always by Robin Uttappa, because he said that I was the best spectator on the ground. They put together, for that wicket, I think they put 128 runs together for that wicket. And Robin Uttappa got 18 in the stand. And the rest of the runs were just scored by Rohit. That 264 was just incendiary. And that's the kind of thing that happens on a magical ground. Magic can happen all the time.
Magical, certainly. That's one way to describe it. I mean, you really look back in all of it and you talk about magical grounds. If you had to pick any ground that was to have a first pink ball test match for India, I think it's only appropriate, not because Saurav Ganguly has done it, because of his position or because of his love for the ground. I think whoever had been there would have picked the Eden Gardens.
Absolutely. I'm so glad they're doing it.